Niagara Falls, I give you Christmas.
The lights are so pretty. This is perfect.
What did you eat?
Yeah, Michael wrote the film as a spec script, and I think coming off of Freaky, he had a really good experience doing that, and then was looking for other sort of high concepts that he could do a bit of a slasher spin on. And then It's a Wonderful Life. I think that movie has such a kind of fun sort of twist to it. That he thought, and also I think he has a lot of respect for that film, and I think it was very important to his family growing up, and so I think he wrote that from from sort of a place of love, and then when I kind of came onto it, I had made a couple films that were also similarly in the horror comedy space, but also maybe a bit more of a cynical edge, and so I really kind of gravitated towards the sincerity of it, the challenge of like making like an uplifting slasher, and so we kind of worked together to sort of sharpen some of the satire and some of the set pieces, but a lot of the bones of it was kind of there, and so it's been a pretty kind of positive collaboration throughout, because we really had a good clear idea what the movie was from the beginning.
Yeah, I understand that Tragedy Girls had played a big part in sealing the deal for Michael. I think you've just touched on it a little bit there. I think it's probably because you had a similar sort of sensibilities and tastes.
Yeah. I mean, when we were making Tragedy Girls, like there weren't a lot of slashers being made, or slasher comedies specifically. Like Tragedy Girls came out before Happy Death Day, and things were like not, we played South by, in March that year, and there was not slasher movies, in the zeitgeist at all. And so we kind of ended up being sort of like on the early side of this sort of new wave of slashers, even before the Halloween 2018s of it all, and all those sorts of ones that were started coming down the pike. And so when Freaky came out, it was in the pandemic, and I was Tragedy Girls had sort of been a success on Hulu and hit a lot of festivals and did well for a movie its size. And people were starting to be like, hey, you should really meet Michael Kennedy, because you guys have some things in common here. And we sort of met and kind of dug each other and kind of kept kept in touch. And then when Knife sort of showed up, I'd already been looking for something to do with the Divide and Conquer guys, Adam and Greg, who were producers on this, and Seth Kaplan went to AFI, and so I knew him, and so they had a number of people that were kind of pulling for me, and I think the sensibilities just kind of clicked, and sometimes that happens, and it's good to take advantage of it, because I could use some of the tools that I was already familiar with, but then do something that's a little bit new.
There's obviously been quite a few Christmas slashes over the years. So what drove you guys to take on this specific subgenre, and what did you factor in to make sure that it was unlike any other sort of Christmas horror movies that you'd seen before, and also quite difficultly, unlike any other slasher movie you've seen before?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely our main guiding light was trying to make an uplifting slasher movie, because a lot of them end in this very this often end in a sort of ironic way, or a way that's oh, actually things are really still shitty, and we wanted to end something that had a positive spin on it, and similar to the original It's a Wonderful Life, which we were kind of taking inspiration from, but I mean, I don't think there is enough Christmas horror. I mean, I'm a big horror fan, and I sort of run out of stuff to watch around Christmas, because I I mean, some of my favorite Christmas horror movies are things like Scrooged, and so I they're obviously stuff like Black Christmas is the original, or one of the original slashers, but I do think that there's room for some, and so we thought it'd been a while since we found a good Christmas horror comedy. Better Watch Out is probably my last kind of favorite one of those, Chris Peckover's kind of really fun sort of subversion, and so we thought it would be a cool sandbox to play in. I've always wanted to make a Christmas movie.
Cool. Now, obviously not wanting to give away any of the plot, but there's a certain big reveal early on in the movie. Did that make it easier to play around with the storyline and the characters, almost like an episode of Columbo, if you will, or did it turn out to be a lot more complicated than you had initially imagined?
No. I mean, it opened up some opportunities. Like essentially the first 15 minutes of our movie are sort of like the end of a different movie. You know, like they're sort of like the climax of another slasher movie or something. And so we have like, you know, a bunch of characters die, and then this sort of unmasking of our main slasher character, which sort of gives the message that like this is not a whodunit, you know. And then we sort of get into this fun section, which is one of my favorite things about the movie, which is sort of the next 15 minutes where you sort of jump ahead a year and like our you know, because something like at the end of a lot of slasher films, like the, you know, character narrowly survives, but like literally all their friends and family are dead, and they're all like, high five, survived the night, you know, like, and we wanted something that really showed that like, oh, actually like this is a very difficult to get over, you know, like, and Winnie's carrying a lot of survivor's guilt with her and a lot of trauma, and when Christmas comes around, she's just really put off by like how cheery everyone is, and it really twists the knife in her in a way that puts her in a very dark place, and that kicks off like this whole other you know, act to the movie, and this and the kind of magical conceit of it, and it just created some new story opportunities, which I thought were super fun, because you know, and that's part of the thing that makes it not like, it's not a beat for beat remake of It's a Wonderful Life. Like it's very much you know, like they're only in the like nightmare version of the town in that movie in the last, like, you know, like 3/4 of the way through the movie, and we try and accomplish that same thing in, you know, the first act, and then have a lot more the fun and games in the nightmare version. And I think that's you know, an interesting place to be in, because like they can't rely on their friend group in the same way that you see a lot of people in slasher movies, where they sort of band together and stuff, and they have to sort of rebuild from scratch. And that was narratively very fun for me.
So whenever anyone takes on a film that deals with time travel or a change in past events, then they're essentially asking for trouble in the form of so many sort of plot holes. Did you address recreating an alternative world without Winnie and making it as believable as possible?
Yeah, I mean, like, because we're sort of like the first act of the movie is a bit of a satire, like the tone of it's like people are acting a bit kind of heightened, because it's a bit of a satire of like Hallmark films, and those films are not particularly grounded. And so we wanted to call to mind that element of it, but the like this sort of toxic positivity we're kind of making fun of. And so we wanted to bring to mind that with a bit of a cynical edge, without like making it feel like one of those movies, you know, like without making it feel like wholesale like that. And we wanted to have a bit of an edge to it. And then really, you know, this, it's sort of like a, you know, the guy, like this villain who has this, I mean, I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but like it's in the trailer, so it's not really a spoiler, but like this villain who has this like, you know, real estate scheme gets like spurned, and then goes on this psychotic tear, you know, like that's very funny to me that a Hallmark villain would spin out of control like that, you know. And then it puts you in this kind of, you know, sort of weird headspace of like now the cheeriness that you were sort of charmed by, you're really put off by. And that's a very fun you know, thing to sort of embrace. And yeah, I mean, I definitely was always looking for those opportunities to kind of juxtapose that like cheery imagery with the like the horrific you know, stuff.
So the other thing that genre fans are going to love, myself included, are the fact you get to play around with plenty of pretty graphic kills, many of them obviously Christmas related. Were these all originally kind of in the script? Or did you get to play around with a lot of kind of different ideas with the crew once you were on set? And was there any that you wanted to do that maybe you couldn't work out?
Yeah, totally. I mean, like what part of what I really like about horror movies and slasher movies specifically is they have a lot of like gags where you're killing people, and people horror fans kind of look for those, you know, like they want to see how you're doing it, you know. And so some of them were really well thought out, and could sort of go anywhere, like the candy cane one I really loved, because it's sort of like everyone knows those candy canes, they've seen them around, like it's cool to ram one of those through somebody's head, and I haven't really seen that before. So it's kind of a self-contained thing, doesn't need the environment, doesn't need, you know, like a lot of setup. And so that was one that was in there very early and then kind of stayed. Whereas some of them we had to sort of rethink based on locations or based on availability of certain elements, or how long it would take to prep certain things. And And so like originally, you know, at one point the killer was supposed to like drown in a frozen lake, but we were like shooting too late in the year to like have a frozen lake. So it was, and we couldn't really make a frozen lake. So we had to sort of rethink it. And at one point it was like this sort of hedge maze, like kind of the end of The Shining. And we found this great hedge maze. And so, and then we couldn't like use the type of camera equipment we wanted in the park where the hedge maze was. And then the schedule wasn't really going to work out. We'd have to sort of do some weird flexing and lose some other actors for it, and it would just we had to scrap that and then rethink it. You know, so it's a bit of a constant kind of battle. But I'll take that hedge maze thing and put it in another movie. You know,
You mentioned the actors there. We can't obviously not talk about the great ensemble cast that you have, and I understand that you were behind. Jane Widdop playing Winnie because you're such a huge fan of Yellow Jackets, and you've got some very familiar names in there from the horror scene, such as Katharine Isabelle from Ginger Snaps, and of course Justin Long, who seems to have a habit of playing these larger than life roles and can be quite a scene stealer. Did you get everyone that you wanted for each specific role?
yeah. I mean, like I was very happy with how the cast kind of came together. Like, you know, like shooting in Canada with our budget was, you know, like we definitely had to look kind of locally for some options, but the bench is really deep in Vancouver. Like it's probably my favorite place to cast outside of Los Angeles. So we were able to bring up a couple people, like obviously Jane is LA based and Joel's LA based and Justin is LA based, but Justin was already up in Vancouver. He was shooting Goosebumps, and so we were able to sort of tack our project on the end of that, and like you know, got kind of a few lucky breaks in that sense. But like yeah, like you know, we really like we've cast Jane early after they did like a really good self tape, and then you know, I was already a big fan of Yellow Jackets and kind of had them on my list of people I wanted to work with, but they did such a great read. We sort of decided to build the whole cast around them, especially the young cast, rather like that sort of young ensemble. And then Joel came on pretty early too. Like he was somebody who, you know, obviously is known for a bit of his like heavier comedic work, but is a, you know, very capable dramatic actor and really likes kind of weird stuff. Like he really responded to the story of it, and he really liked Tragedy Girls, and so we had a long chat, and he was just very supportive of kind of like, yeah, you know, put me in, coach. Like let's do, you know, let's do what's best for the movie. And he really set a great tone. Like a lot of the younger cast really respected him, and he shot like the first week of the movie. And so he set like he just came in and really was just there, very present, very giving, and really set like a great example and sort of elevated, I think, a lot of the younger people, and it helped us kind of get off on the right foot. And then Justin came in a little bit later, and you know is sort of a character that's you know, takes so much air and is such a big performance that you know, he's a bit off on his own planet, and then it's up to everyone else to kind of ground things around him. And you know, he's kind of known for that. You know, he obviously is a, you know, Tusk, and like you know, that movie was a huge swing, and like Drag Me to Hell I love, and even though he's a bit more of the grounding force in that movie, but even like stuff like Idiocracy, like I mean, that character he plays is crazy, you know, like, you know, and he's like, you know, like I've been a fan of his since Galaxy Quest. Like he does a lot of big swings, but he has this very nice guy assumption about him, and I really wanted to sort of do something that was opposite of that. And he was really game for that and came in with a ton of ideas, and so it became more about like shaping the great ideas that he had. And then you know, and then we were very lucky with some of the local people, like Jess McLeod, who plays Bernie, who's a very key character. We had to look for around a lot of different options for them, and then they ended up coming in and having such a great chemistry with Jane. It really sort of changed the shape of the ending of the movie, and that relationship really became the most important kind of element, and which was awesome. And then you know, and then Katie, like I definitely, you know, was on she's like top of my list. You know, I mean, I grew up about 2 hours south of Edmonton, so then they shot Ginger Snaps when I was in high school, and I love that movie. And you know, so I've really been looking for something to do with her, and this you know, like she was really my you know, top choice for it, and so I'm so glad that she kind of came in and did such a great job. And then, you know, we tried to fill out the rest of it. Like, you know, we looked at Michael Ironside for a minute for Roger Evans, and couldn't really figure out the schedule. And so we ended up, you know, like our close second choice was William B. Davis, you know, who's like from the X-Files and kind of you know, very well known to genre fans and stuff. So I was glad to be able to kind of fit a few of those people in there.
Sadly, we're almost out of time. Just very quickly, there's a lot of potential for sequels or spin-offs in different locations and sort of taking it in different times of year and directions and or potentially even eras. Have you had a conversation around any potential sort of follow-up?
Yeah, we've chatted about it a little bit. I know Michael's got a couple ideas, well, yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's some more fun to be had in the sandbox. So, I'm excited to see how the movie does and how people are responding to it well so far. And I mean, maybe it'll come together. It's a Wonderful Knives. It's Christmas 2025. Or something.
Well, I certainly hope the film slays for you. Sorry, I had that teed up from the minute I heard I was going to be speaking to you. But best of luck, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about another project very soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
Hey, you!
Hey, Merry Christmas. We gotta stop him. And get my life back.
You be safe now. Leave.